Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome. Can you just give me a thumbs up that you can hear me? Just let me know that you can hear me. Hi, everyone. Grateful to be here with you guys. Looking forward to this hour, our first show. Hello. Our first show. Jason and I are really, really excited to be able to be here with you guys. Hello. Thumbs up. Okay, good. Yay. Fabulous. All right. Let's grab Jason and let's begin. Yay. Okay. First time on Instagram. Welcome. Let's get Mr. Jason in.
Hello.
Whoa. Hello, hello.
All righty. Wait, let me turn this off. There we go. Okay,
Yes,
we're in it.
the
We're doing
heat.
this.
We're so doing this. Show number one.
Show number one, The Awakening. We should get like a guy to come and announce it in the beginning like they do in boxing matches.
Yeah. I love it. This is funny. I keep having this vision of like, okay, so I don't know if you guys ever have this like where you're going in between like a future moment and a past moment where you know that you're in a past moment because you can see another moment in the future that's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing this first show from a future version of me watching us do this first show, and I'm like, oh, look at them doing their first show. It's so elementary.
We're gonna be bringing in props. I don't know how it's gonna evolve, but remember when we did the first global meditation, we didn't have Amber the gong.
We did not have
And then
Amber.
second or third time, we're like, maybe we should bring a gong in. And I brought Amber.
Yep.
It was a good time.
And Amber is really part of the global meditation.
Yeah, no, she is. She makes us laugh.
She does.
Puts us to sleep.
She
wakes us up.
She does.
And she keeps us in it.
She does. She's got a powerful role. We love her.
All righty, so let's talk about what we're doing here.
We don't know what we're doing.
We don't know what we're doing, but let's go for it. You want to share your intentions?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've talked about this for a while, and I think one of the things that I really wanted to do was I wanted to connect live with everyone, and to just create a community, an interactive community where we could really talk about the human experience and the human journey. Like, what are we going through right now? How are we navigating this? What are your experiences? What are my experiences? Allowing people from all over the earth to be able to not feel alone. That is what I want to really be able to create, is this shift that we're going through. Let's not be alone in it, and let's navigate it together. Let's dissect it together. Let's play together in it, and let's have fun and learn and educate while we're all going through it. Because that's what I think is one of the greatest gifts of social media, is that we can literally click a little button that says live, and we're all like one little click, and we're all here together,
100%.
Can I share?
Go for it.
Can I share a quick story?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So a couple weeks ago, you guys, a lot of you know Phil Good. Phil Good and I were talking, and we were talking about Yeshua, or Jesus, right? This figure that walked the land at some point, and would walk into like villages of like 20, 30 people, and he would like share information about what he believed to be his truths, and then he would carry on, right? And we kept saying like, wow, we feel like we're like Yeshua on steroids, where basically we have this device, right? Like this phone, and we can literally click a little button. And instead of impacting like 20 people with a message, we're impacting millions of people with a message. And I think we get lost with social media because we get frustrated with it, or, we get annoyed with the censorship. But to really cherish the fact that we can push a button and like we can literally connect to millions of people in one now moment is miraculous. So
100%.
that's my intention for
It's
this.
Well, before I state my intention, just to piggyback off of what you just said, because you're 100% right. It kind of shows us, I mean, we have this piece of technology in our hands, and how are we going to use it? And in some cases, in many cases, right, everything's like this double-edged sword where it can be used. And I like giving that knife analogy, where a knife can be used to kill somebody, a knife can be used to make a salad. And it's like, it really depends on how you use it. So even with the censorship and everything that's going on, it is a very good tool because it's a massive platform that does, whether we like it or not, on that platform, connect the world. Because in a split second, like Lori said, we can press a button and 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 1,000,000 people can be watching something at the same time. That's massive. So in that way, I am very grateful for these platforms. And I am aware that there are the downsides of it, but we could make the best of it. And I think this is one of the ways that we're making the best of it. So in a way, this is what I called it, Instagram's first conscious live show.
Yeah.
That's consistent, that's continuous, that's interactive, that brings all of you in. So going to my intention, yes, we've been speaking about this for a few months. And the reason why I feel this is so important and so powerful at this point in time is because, I mean, for the past while, specifically over the past few months, there have been a lot of incredible teachers teaching and guiding and help navigate and assisting and doing incredible things. And with that, it's almost like up until now, it's always been to the audience, to everybody's listening, you're being spoken to. And one of my intentions was, okay, speaking to you is great, but I also want to speak with you, right? It's not a one-way street here. This is growth that comes from both sides of the street, and we have to do it together if we want to do it together. So that's why, I mean, this platform is great because we have the Q&As, we have the live chat, we can talk, we can actually talk. So unlike all the other shows that we've done, and I think we've answered a few questions here and there, but a lot of this, in regards to my intention, what Laura and I spoke about, is to make this as interactive as can be, to include you guys in this whole thing, because you guys are the reason why this is happening. We're all in this together. It's not Jason, it's not Lori, it's not Phil, it's not any other teacher that's out there. It's all of us together. And the interactive part of it is significant in terms of moving forward. So yeah, that's my intention, bring us together in that way.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I've been thinking about the power of Instagram Live, and what it can do, and how I feel when I get on Instagram Live. I feel so alive when I'm on it. I feel charged, and I'm excited every time I get on. So this is going to be so good. So for those of you that don't know what the heck we're talking about, we started a live interactive show. This is show 1, called The Awakening. We're going to be live every other Wednesday. So whatever you want to call that, at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. I think it's like 1 a.m. in London. And then, just Google your time zone. Figure it out.
We could always figure out in terms of like posting replays. I mean, one of us, whoever is hosting the show, will always post a replay after, so everybody can watch it,
Yeah.
even if you're not watching it live. And we'll figure it out. We'll try to put it wherever we can. So
yeah. For sure.
All righty,
Yeah.
so you want to do this thing? Let's start with some questions.
Let's just go.
Okay, it's on your end, the question.
Oh.
Can't see anything.
Okay, so you guys, we're gonna dive into some of your questions. So ask away. Ask whatever you want to ask. What are you going through? What do you want to know? What's going on in your world?
And by the way, I think the best way to ask those questions is there's literally a question mark down below on the story. Click that and ask the question. Because if you ask them in the comments, they'll probably just get lost.
Yeah, ask in the thank you for clarifying that piece. All right, awesome. Let's go. Let's see if I can do this. By the way, I might not even be able to read it, so let's just see what
Okay,
happens.
we'll figure it out. Worst case, we'll go from the comments.
Okay, tap a response to show it on your screen. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, that's great. Look at that.
It worked.
All right, you guys, ask your questions. Throw them down there. Okay, so addiction from Matthew. How to overcome addiction.
Can I start with something on this one?
Yeah.
Because I like this question a lot, and it's a short little way of reframing something that has helped me.
Okay.
When it comes to addiction or cravings or whatever it is, and I'm only speaking from my experience, so this is just one way of doing something, of probably many. It was a lot easier to navigate any sort of cravings or addictions or desires that I've had in the past when I stopped calling them my addictions or my vices, and I started calling them my lessons. Because it took this thing that when you call it your vice or you call it your addiction, you're sort of energetically implying that it's there to hurt you. And if the moment I kind of reframed that understanding of addiction into, no, 1 second, there's an opportunity to learn something from this and to grow, well, then it's not real. It's a vice, it's an addiction, it's a craving, but there's also a massive opportunity and a lesson to grow from and to take from it. So for me, just a very simple answer is I started referring to the things that I used to see as holding me back as the things that have the greatest potential to propel me forward. And when I saw them in that way, they became my friends, not my enemies. And suddenly I started working with them instead of against them. And that's one of the ways that I work through anything from, anything, So yeah, that's a short answer that I would give on that one.
That's a really good way to reframe it. Reframing it is huge. I've had a lot of addictions in my life. I'm really adept at understanding addiction. I've been sober for 7 years. I had an eating disorder for 15 years. So I navigated moving through addiction. And I'll say this. First of all, it really depends on the addiction that you are an addiction is really a behavior and thought beliefs, right? Beliefs and behaviors connected. It's also a consciousness that's in your body. And as you start to awaken into higher states, that consciousness is going to start to become more prevalent. Like, oh, this needs to dissolve from my system. This behavior needs to dissolve. These thoughts need to dissolve, right? It gets louder and louder and louder. I'll quickly say, because it's a very long topic that we can go on, but what really worked for me the best was, this is what I did. And again, it depends on the addiction. It depends on your traumas. It depends on, everyone is very different, but this is what really helped me move through my addictions. I visualized and knew the version of me that was already out of that behavior and thought process, right? So let's say I had the eating disorder, right? I would see myself healed and whole, being the aspect of me without the behavior, without the thoughts moving through my head. And every single now moment, that version of me was always right here next to me, really literally embodied. That was key. And the other thing that what was key was having compassion for myself every single time I did the behavior that I didn't want to do. That
Absolutely.
was massive, massive, because it shifts the energy that you hold around yourself.
Because there's no resistance towards anymore. By the way, I would say what I heard with what you just said was, one of the main things when it comes to accessing a certain reality or manifestation, visualization is massive. When I used to live in the city a few years ago, I would go out, have fun with my friends, go out to nightclubs, drink, have a good time. And there was a point where I'm like, I don't really want to drink anymore. But what I wanted and what I was doing were not in alignment. So I had this dissonance. And in the beginning, what was happening was that resistance, like you said, it was eating me. I'm like, oh my God. And it was never aligning. And I don't know who shared something with me. I don't know when that shift changed, but it changed to exactly what you said, where I'm like, wait a second. I'm gonna know that the day will come where the me that I envision myself to be will be there. And until I get there, I'm going to accept and love myself the entire way. And that in and of itself was this acceptance and flow that allowed me to get there. I mean, so much easier with flow, because it wasn't resistant. It was just, you want to do it. But set your intention, keep seeing it, keep seeing where you want to get. And eventually, sooner or later, that imprint will come to life because you put enough attention towards there. So definitely.
Yeah, 1000%. I mean, listen, you guys, when you have an addiction that is eating at you and you feel completely powerless,
Mm.
where you literally are feeling like you're being controlled by that addiction. I know that feeling so well, where it's like no matter how badly you want to be done with the addiction, it still freaking shows up. And I can tell you from somebody that has gone through healing it without using a therapist, without using a book, without using any of that. I healed it on my own. If you can love the heck out of yourself while you're going through it and allow that pattern to play out, because it's going to play out, but stay focused on the intention of, I am moved out of this and I'm moving out of this at the exact same time, you will find yourself out of that behavior and that addiction. That's how powerful you are. You have the ability to do it.
One last thing before we go to the next question. I just want to share a short little story that I had with a good friend of mine. He had a massive addiction to alcohol, to a point where he had to go to meetings. And whenever we would speak and whenever he would take what he learned through that experience to teach others, he would always say, listen, I'm an addict, and keep going with his words. And I said, dude, listen to what you're saying. You keep bringing, because the resistance was always there for him. He wasn't doing what he used to do, but the resistance was there. And I said, dude, listen, if you keep saying I'm an addict, you're literally stating what's going on in this present moment. I'm not saying not to acknowledge it, but bring it in the past. Acknowledge it where it was. Leave it behind. I was an addict. This is what I learned, and this is where I am today. And I think that's important because I see a lot of people saying, I'm an addict, even if they're 12 years sober. And no, you're not. You were, but you moved forward.
Yeah.
So just one example of how words can be so powerful in stating and accessing a specific reality in this present moment.
Yeah, and Adrian Parks just said it also helps to let go of relationships that add insult to injury, and I couldn't agree more. Depending upon your relationships, depending upon the addictions, depending upon the contracts, it's a complicated, multi-layered sort of answer to navigating addiction, but that's the beginning. That's the beginning of it.
Alrighty.
It was a good question. Let's see.
I'm going to read the comments in the meantime.
Can you read? Oh.
I was just looking at the comments.
Somebody wants to know how you liked your icy plunge, and will you continue the practice?
Oh my God. Listen, let me tell you, it's painful. It's the type of pain that feels like your body's on fire. I used to do it a lot more last winter, and then I kind of got lazy and comfortable in the warmth. But today I just had this trigger, and I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta do it. So yeah, I think I'm gonna make it a daily thing because I felt alive when I was doing it. So yeah.
Okay, this is a good question. They're all good questions. How do you stay in pure positive energy? Which, first of all, I don't even know what that means, but let's just dive in. How do you stay in pure positive energy all the time, and is it possible?
Well, I don't. So I'm just gonna raise my hand and say no.
I don't either. I don't either.
I don't. I actually go through a lot of struggles.
Yeah, so do I. Like our day today, do we even go into it? Actually,
I had a terrible morning.
You had an up and down day. My day was a little bit more stable, but I mean, listen, you guys, like in legit honesty, my day looks very different in the morning in the midday, and in the afternoon. I mean, it's
Yep.
rare that I have a day like today. I actually had a day that was pretty flatlined, right? And when I call it flatlined, I'm like, dude, I got through the day like pretty even keeled. But most of the
Even
time,
keeled. Even
yeah.
keeled.
What does that mean?
Never heard someone say even keeled.
What does that mean?
That's like
Even
when I heard
keeled.
somebody say vis-a-vis. I'm like, what did you just tell me? Okay,
Vis-a-vis.
go.
What does vis-a-vis mean? That sounds like
Like,
French.
I still don't know. I heard
Vis-a-vis
like
is like
something vis-a-vis. Okay, even keeled.
even
I'm
keeled.
gonna keep
Even
that.
ke- you guys, even keeled means like chill, right? I was even keeled. I was good. Um, Most of the time, like you, I'm like one state of consciousness in the morning, one state of consciousness in the midday, one state of consciousness in the afternoon. So for me, there is no such thing as staying in any energy. First of all, energy is always moving through me. Energy is consciousness, and consciousness is emotion, thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. So if I understand how energy moves, that I'm energy and that I'm in this quantum field moving with this beautiful flow of energy, then I am never connected. I should say I'm never attached to any now moment that I have ever. I do not expect to be in a positive state. I do not expect to be in a negative state. I do not expect to be in a high state. I have no expectation of my state of consciousness. And I allow my state of consciousness to be shown to me based on what my now moment is presenting to me.
I would say in my experience with directly to that question, I mean, seriously, I'm not always happy. No way. I go through a lot of different things, just like we all do. But there is something that does help me through a lot of the time, not all the time, because I'm a human. Sometimes I forget. But just almost absolute acceptance of what is in the present moment. So I'll give you an example. And this is when I knew I'm like, you got somewhere. No, because I'm like, dude, like you're getting somewhere. And I want to share my experience because I'm like, wow, can't believe like real time game time experience. I'm very happy how I dealt with something. So that's
Ooh,
the I'm going
let's
to share with
go.
you.
Go for it.
I was driving upstate and it was getting dark and out of nowhere it was like this street with two hills on the side, so like it was like downhill on each side of the road, and it was like a windy road, really dark in the middle of the woods somewhere. This deer comes flying out of nowhere. I don't know where it came from, but the type of flight where like it took like a leap into the air, and I didn't see it because it came from the dark and it was already nighttime. And as I was driving, I hit the deer, right, like literally hit the deer while it was in the air. The first thing, and by the way, the deer lived. There was just fur stuck in like the license plate cover. It was a really weird situation that
That's
happened.
bizarre.
Very weird situation. I went out expecting to see a dead deer. No deer, just some fur on the license plate, and I guess it kept running. But my first instinct was, and I was very happy to see this because it was like I'm getting to a place of acceptance naturally, where instead of saying, "Oh, like shit, like how did this happen?" It's just like, okay, everybody relax. Is everybody okay? Now let's deal with it. Okay, we know what happened. This happened. There's nothing we could do. Now, how do we move forward? And it was almost just accepting what happens in this now moment with everything. So that story has to do with the deer. But when things happen, there was a funny short little clip of this guru, I think from India, saying something, and it was like 1 minute, and he says something along the lines of, "Is there anything you can do about it? If yes, then do it. If no, then there's nothing you can do." So in either way, you have nothing to worry about, because if there is something you can do about it, you're going to go and do it. If there isn't something you can do about it, then you're all good, because there's nothing you can do about it. And that idea kind of brought me to this place of, yeah, there are times throughout the day where I get triggered. There are times throughout the day where I get upset or sad or frustrated or whatever it is. And with all that, sometimes I do let it get into me, and then I zoom out for a second. I'm like, wait, 1 second, let's refocus on like what is in proportion life. And you move forward, you know what I mean? But not move forward by throwing it to the side. You move forward by kind of letting it pass through you and feel it and let it keep going. So that would be my answer to that question of I'm not always happy, but there's a way to let things pass through, or at least try to use that practice.
Yeah, I think for me, as I continue to move through every now moment and continuing to really take this shift in consciousness seriously, and I'm always looking at myself, I'm always examining myself, I'm always doing the work, right? Work.
Mm-hmm.
The less attachment I have, the happier I am.
Yep.
And that is a practice because we are conditioned to be attached to everything. And so to learn how to detach from your emotions is massive. To learn how to detach from an awakened state
Mm-hmm.
is massive. To learn how to detach from the evolution of yourself is massive. So, i.e., I'm ascending, I'm moving into higher states of consciousness. Oh my God, I'm going to be in these higher states all the time. Like, not really. Let me give you a little kind of, little hint here. We're evolving and we're shifting, and it's this up and down process, right? It's not, we've talked about this so many times. It's not like this. It's this, right? So pay attention to the attachments that we have. Pay attention to, because suffering is equated to attachment.
Mm-hmm.
There's no suffering when you let go of attachment.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
The less
so
you need, the happier you are. The less you need, the more content you are, because there's nothing bringing you down.
yeah, and here's the thing about intention and manifestation, right? Or intending or creating your reality is, and this is what's so fascinating and awesome about the physical world that we're in. Like, part of what's so great about the juiciness of the physicality we're in is there's so much for us to devour. There's so much abundance that we can have. There's so much love that we can have. There's so much good food. Like, there's so much good that we can have from this space. And if you can hold both states, right, which is, ooh, this desire for whatever it is you want, and at the exact same time, completely detached from receiving it.
100%. That's with abundance also. It's the same thing. You let go, suddenly everything opens up because you're not holding on to anything. So yeah, for sure. It's
Yeah, you
definitely a
don't,
practice. It's a practice.
it's a massive
Yeah,
practice.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Abundance is huge. Abundance is one of my all-time favorite topics because it is so multi-layered, and when you find yourself in, I've lived in abundance in a very long time, naturally. I don't know. I just know how to live in it. When you live in abundance, it's like you tapped into magic. Like, you literally tapped into something that, like, nobody else knows about. You're like, wait, does anybody else know about abundance? Like, because it's a state of conscious. It's like a bubble, and it's
The
a
fun,
frequency.
the funny thing with abundance is that, I mean, the way I see it, at least the way it feels for me, is it's the natural flow of the universe. We just think it's this crazy thing. It's not. We live in abundance. That's what our natural sort of frequency is. We've maybe tuned out of that and came into lack and all that through the programs that we've built in our society. But abundance is what we are. That's what
Yeah,
that is.
and it's our birthright. Our
100%.
abundance is our birthright. Okay, we've got 45 questions. Let's go.
We'll do it quicker.
Kareen said I look great. Thank you, Kareen. I appreciate that. Okay, we'll be quicker. We can't talk quicker.
I know it's impossible, but
Okay,
figure it out.
let's see. Um, okay, Jason, I'm going to give you this one while I'm looking for another one.
Okay.
Melissa asked, how do you find your passion? I think there's a lot of people right now that are really feeling, they're not feeling anything. They're kind of numb, right? No direction, no drive, no desire, no passion. Whoa. What do we do?
That's a really interesting question because it's so wide. I'm not going to answer what do we do. I'm going to answer what I did because that's all I can do in this situation. Because I do think that there's a multitude of different ways to go about this one. But for me to realize what drove me, what I live for, what helped me the most personally on the individual level is learning. And I mean, up until just a few years ago, I never read a book. I never opened a book. I never finished a book. And there was a point in time where there was a period of 4 years where I was getting injured over and over and over again. I hurt my shoulder. I almost had to get like a fake mechanical shoulder. I almost lost my leg. And long story short, it kept putting me in the hospital, it kept putting me in surgeries, and it kept putting me in a state of isolation. And there came a point where I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna decide to listen to what the universe is telling me because it was a voice already. You know, it was words saying, wake the hell up and stop doing what you're doing, because I wasn't living in harmony with my destiny, if you want to call it, for whatever that means to me. And I remember telling my mom, I call her Ima because that's what we say in Hebrew, and I said, Ima, I'm going to read a book when I go after my third surgery with my shoulder, because I was going to be in bed for 3 weeks. And I read this book having to do with medicine because it's something I liked. And that propelled me into this new world of things that were always in front of me that I didn't necessarily know. And the more I learned, the more I educated myself from informational aspects. For whatever reason, the more in tune I got with the non-informational aspects, which is how I wrote books, for example. So the books weren't written from teachings that I was given. My first 2 books were written through some sort of something that, I mean, it just came through and it happened. And it was almost like a combination of letting myself being guided, letting everything guide me instead of trying to figure it out, just letting it happen because it's already happening. And as I kind of moved through that passion became my life and eventually my living. So that was my journey in a very short, sort of concise manner, because we don't have all the time in the world right now. But it was really through a combination of letting things guide me, letting the universe guide me, and stepping into waters that I didn't necessarily know what they were, because they're out of the box I was in at the time. And I expanded that box, and I'm always expanding that box. And I'm sure my passion will become stronger and more refined as time goes by, because we learn new things every single day. So I would say just be open to learning new things, be open to being a different person tomorrow than you are today. And if you can do that, stagnation, staying the same, will not happen. Growth will be the only thing that you live by. And your passion will naturally fall into place.
And I'll just add that, especially in the times that we're in right now, the thing, what's coming through right now, big time for, I forgot the woman that asked this question.
Melissa,
part of, good memory, part of, it was only like 5 minutes ago, so the memory part of this experience that we're in right now is a massive pause. A lot of us are going through such an intense internal energetic transformation, and we're starting to come online. So we're starting to feel this need to show up, this need to do, this need to be, this need to assist in a way that we haven't before. And at the exact same time, there's this lull, there's this silence, there's this quieting, it's a massive pause. And so it's an uncomfortable place to be for a lot of people, because they're coming online, they're ready to go, and nothing's happening.
Yep.
So this comes back to attachment and really surrendering to the now moment as much as you can, while you at the exact same time hold the version of you that's doing whatever it is that she's doing, even when you don't know what it is. So wherever you are in your now moment, whatever it is that you are desiring or knowing that you're going to be stepping into, even if you don't have the specifics, start to embody that version, start to embody her. And then at the same time, completely let go and surrender to the now moment. Stop trying to find purpose. Stop trying to create anything. Be in the now while you intend that version. Okay, here's...
Wait, before, I have to add one sentence.
Yeah.
this is what I got as you were speaking. The equivalent of trying to find purpose for me reminds me of the idea of the pharmaceutical industry. I'll tell you what I mean by that. We think that, or maybe not we, but the world as it is today thinks that it's smarter than the human body. And we feel the need to come and interfere because we think we can do a better job. And if we just for a second let go and let the body do its thing, because the body is intelligent and the body is self-healing and self-balancing, the body would be exactly where it needs to be in terms of its state of health and well-being. And that's very much the same. That's the physical aspect. The energetic aspect is the same thing because it's a reflection. And instead of trying to do something that you think nothing else can, have faith and trust that there is something bigger. You are that something bigger, by the way. You're not your body. And that intelligence is guiding you and helping you navigate everything that you do. So in short, just let it happen, and it will happen, and move in the directions that it guides you.
Yeah, letting go of that desire is so hard when you're feeling it, but there's that balance.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a fun question.
Okay, I like fun questions.
I think it's a fun one.
All
Okay,
right.
from Sister Silver Hair. Okay. How did you feel when you first interacted with galactic beings or ETs?
Interesting. Go for it. You start with that one.
Okay. So the only way that I've ever interacted with galactic beings, I call them higher dimensional beings or light beings, is etherically. So let me explain that. I have never had experiences that have been physical in nature where I'm standing like this and I'm wide awake and I'm in my body and the being is right in front of me and we're having an interaction and engagement. I've never had that. Every single one of my interactions has been me with my eyes closed in some sort of a higher dimensional state. My body has been in a higher frequency, and I have sort of bilocated or moved myself into a space where I have been side by side with them, whether it was in my room or whether it was somewhere else. And the first time that I started experiencing these beings, I didn't call them into my space. They started coming into my space in sessions. And I'll tell you what it felt like. It feels like, because all of you have these beings around you, most of us do in some way, shape, or form. It feels like you are standing with like the most amazing, here's the best way to describe it, like the most amazing kind of love and compassion and intelligence, right? You can feel that there is something with this energy and being that's standing in front of you that is much more potent than anything that you could receive from a human. It brings you to tears. It opens you up. And the interesting thing about these different galactic beings is depending upon which being is in front of me, they feel different. Same like with a human, right? Different humans feel differently when you're connecting. Different galactic beings feel very different. And they have different sort of frequencies that give you a different experience. So for me, when there's no mistake when you start experiencing them. You're like, oh, there is a light being in my space, in my field, and I am now connecting with it. And then it's all telepathic, right? The way you communicate. And so you're literally having a conversation through energy. And you feel so deeply loved and like honored. And it's just the most amazing experience that I'm grateful to be able to have every single day.
All right.
Jason's is different.
Mine's is different because it comes from a different place. Do you mind taking the question away, by the way? Because it's like... Okay, so where this differs, by the way, is, if I understand correctly, Lori is connected to higher vibrational light beings, as they call it. And stop me if I'm not correct, by the way. And where I come from, at least what I was privileged in order to receive, comes from a state of physical beings like you and I. Now, that's not to say that they're not very high vibrational. So in other words, you can be at a state of gamma or fifth dimensional awareness and higher while still residing in a third dimensional body. It's just the awareness that's residing in a physical body. And by the way, that's part of the reason, or one of the reasons why I love our connection, Lori, because we bring those both sides of energetic spirituality and physicality together. Now, when it comes to ETs, if we are referring to extraterrestrials here, because I guess galactic beings can be many different types, but if we are referring to physical extraterrestrials, I want to just put something into proportion for everybody. If you're white and you live in Iceland and you never left Iceland, and I told you that there's a race out there that's short for the most part, they have flatter, a little wider noses, their eyes are more stretched out, they have black hair, they don't have blue or green eyes, they're only dark or brown eyes. I mean, if you catch my drift, I'm explaining the Asian race. Now, when one comes and tells you, when I come and share information of beings from Sia, of beings from Konom, of beings from Nishia, they're no different. They just have different characteristics. And people think of extraterrestrials as these, like, they're so different than us. No, one day, by the way, when we have intergalactic unity, there will be, just like we call each other human beings on Earth with all these different races. I don't know what we'll call ourselves, maybe just beings, I have no idea, but we are all the same in that source. The only difference between me and, let's say, an African American, or me and an Asian, or whatever other race we're speaking about, or an extraterrestrial, is that we collectively have gotten used to the races here on Earth, and we haven't necessarily gotten used to other races everywhere else. So the way that these other races differ is, like you said, they are at a much higher level of awareness. And there is this essence of unconditional love. And with that, it's sort of, like humbling? Is that the right word? It gives humility to be able to see that, number one, we aren't the only life here on Earth. And well, on Earth and in the universe, by the way, because they are here. And the other beings that are here are not here for what we thought, according to Hollywood and everything else, of coming here to hurt us. They're here for the opposite reason. They're here to help us. And it brings this loving sort of, just sort of unconditional everything, compassion, love, forgiveness, gratitude, everything sort of energy into the mix of our ocean of energy here on Earth. And what makes me the most grateful when it comes to extraterrestrials is that knowing that they're here in New York City, in other cities, in other towns, in other villages, and they are, some of them look like us, some of them don't, some of them have formed into us, and some of them have not, which is a whole different topic. But their energy is their energy, even if they have formed into looking like us. And the fact that we have the privilege of having that energy in such close proximity on the third dimensional plane of physicality to us is, I'm getting the chills just saying it, it's massive. Because just their presence and just that energetic exchange without us even understanding what's going on causes this world to be a better place. No matter how slow or fast that happens, there are many things we don't know about. Because a lot of people say, well, if they were here to help us, then why haven't they helped us? And a lot of people say that they're here to hurt us. But now I'll ask you the same question. If they were here to hurt us, then how come they haven't invaded and killed humanity yet? How come they aren't here on our lands taking over? Because they are here to help us, but there's a way to do it. And that way is to understand where we are on the collective level. And it's not a good thing or a bad thing, but on the level of awareness collectively, as all humanity on Earth, we are pretty low on our level of awareness collectively, which is a beautiful thing, because that shows how much room we actually have to grow. And there's an understanding here, and Chaim Eshed, who was an Israeli that came out at a high level that spoke about recently, a few months ago, about extraterrestrials' interactions with the human race. He said it perfectly. He said what I was saying for 3-4 months before that, ever since I came public with everything. And it's a very simple concept of right now on the collective level, humanity is not ready. And the beautiful thing with that is that they understand that.
Yeah.
Because if there was a coming out on a grand level, there could be a lot of issues. There could be fear. There could be facing with violence. And in short, I think the beautiful thing is that we do have the privilege of having these beings here in our proximity, here on Earth, literally in your cities. Your friends could be some of them and you would have no idea. And I am aware of somebody that looks like a human being who used to be 3 feet tall. So they're here, and they're here doing incredible things. They're here helping us subliminally without us even realizing. So yeah, it's just a beautiful reality that's happening, and it's coming out. You know what I mean? And these conversations will cause that disclosure process to happen in a more timely fashion.
As I'm listening to you talk, there's so many things going through my head about this topic. And the reason I wanted to answer this question is because I think it's a topic that's going to be necessary to look at this year a lot. But what's so great about you and I's perspectives around this is that there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and God knows how many more hundreds of different types of what I will call beings or consciousnesses.
I'm sure.
That are interacting and engaging, right? So you're speaking of the ones that are actually kind of physically here and also physically on other planets. I'm speaking about ones that are in such a higher dimensional frequency. They don't even have physicality. They don't hold bodies. They are not in a physical form right now. And there is everything and anything in between. This is not like, oh, ETs equal ... Higher dimensional light beings equal ... There is so much to this conversation and what is around us and supporting us, that we just have to start to expand our awareness around this. And the other thing that I'm just going to tap into real quick is I was watching that interview. I told you about it. I left you a little voice. I was watching an interview with this guy named Travis. I don't know his last name. Anyway, he had what is it?
Travis Walton.
Yeah, Travis Walton. He was abducted like in 1979. And I was fascinated because, he was physically abducted, because most people that have experiences with these galactic beings, they have it like I have it, right? It's not like you're physically standing there and you're physically in front of them. That's very, very rare. Most people have them in an etheric state or a light body state. So the piece that was really fascinating with him is that he said, listen, I don't think these beings are evil. I don't think these beings are here to create a war or to harm humanity. And I sat with that because there are so many stories around this and programs and paradigms around understanding these beings, these ETs and these races, and starting to let go of that story. Whether it's true or not, let's let go of that story, because if we continue to hold that story, the beings that are here to assist us are going to hold back until those beliefs and thoughts are no longer there, because they will not show up and say, hi, we're here, if we're still holding fear and anxiety and worry that they're going to abduct us and kill us and do whatever it is that we're telling ourselves they're going to do.
The ball's in our court.
Yeah.
The ball's in our court right now, and it's all a matter of what are we going to choose to do. And listen, it does make it harder because there are many speaking about how they're evil and how they're here to hurt us and how they're here to kill us. And first of all, I will say that anybody listening is 100%, I respect whatever you believe. Any way that goes, whether you believe they're here to hurt us, whether you believe there's some here hurting us, or whether you believe they're all good. All I can say is, if we do think about it, and there's a level of feeling and intuition that comes in here also. But for anybody that can't tap into that or hasn't accessed that part of themselves yet, I encourage you to look at the facts, look at what has happened, look how this has panned out, look at everything in our 3D world. We've been programmed to think one thing, but everything with evidence shows the exact opposite. So when we think UFO, we think invasion. When we think alien, we think abduction. Why abduction? Why not? Abduction has this, you're being kidnapped. That's what it sounds like. Why that word? Why invasion? Why not just landing and assimilation? They're invasion. I mean, if that were the case, then why haven't we been shot down? Why haven't we been pulverized? Why, when we faced their technology with our incredible technology, with our weaponry, did they not fight back? Because if they could get here, then it would be logical, and I'm talking from logic right now on the 3D plane. It would be logical to assume that they do probably have the sort of laser technology or something to take us out, but they didn't, even when we went against them. So with all that, you have a lot of people that had personal experiences. There was one in Tanzania. It was spoken about in the Phenomenon documentary. If you haven't watched that, it's an incredible documentary. And there was a UFO that landed in a school in Tanzania. And they interviewed all the kids. All the kids have the same story. All the kids, it's giving me the chills speaking about it, because you see 10-year-olds telling the same thing, drawing the same thing, saying they landed here. And this is what they said. This is how they looked. And they said they communicated with us. They didn't say telepathically because they didn't know the words. They said they didn't speak to us, but it was almost like they were putting messages in our head, and what they were telling us. And the kids had the same message. They were telling us that our technology is hurting us, and we need to use it in a way that can help us move forward and stopping to hurt us. And it's like, there's so many of those stories that, come on. You're telling me a kid is coming and telling me that there was a telepathic communication between a group of children that all were interviewed separately to make sure, because it was an investigation, coming with the same story of how they were coming for peace. And they literally saw them on their crafts. They drew pictures, they drew everything. So, I mean, everything shows that they're here to help us. And yet, when people who come and share that from also personal experiences, for whatever reason, they're still taken down and criticized, because what are you talking about? They got to be evil. But why? Well, what do you mean? Why do they have to be evil? Who said? They haven't done anything.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The more and more we start to look at our beliefs around this, we start to accept this as reality, accept that there are hundreds of thousands of different beings, just like there's hundreds of thousands of different humans. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be fun. I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this is going to unravel.
Fun journey.
But they're a lot smarter than we are, and they have everything under control. So they know when they're going to be able to show up for humanity, and it's not about us.
Just think about how our world is going to change, by the way. The technology that they have. I mean, yeah. Our transportation system, Uber, planes, airlines, any of that?
Yeah, but they're going to let us do it. They're not going to come in. This is how I see it. This has always been a free will planet. So yeah. They are never going to come in and say, hey, here's some information, here's some technology. They're going to do it in a way that makes it seem like we had free will and we sort of figured it out on our own. That's what I think, and I believe.
I agree with you. I think it'll be done in evolution. I think that's already been done, by the way. And
yeah.
That's been spoken about by multiple people that say this technology did not come from us. Suddenly there were just massive spikes in technology. Nobody understood where it came from.
Yeah.
And yeah, the beautiful part of their technology is that it connects the physical and the spiritual. So you have to be at that higher state in order to operate that spaceship. It's not a steering wheel with a gas pedal. It's
and here's another thing. Aside from ETs and aliens, we are higher dimensional consciousness. We could be higher dimensional consciousness than the aliens that are walking around disguised. We could have more awareness than they have. So this idea that they are better than us, or that they're here to help us, they're here to come in and save us, that also needs to be balanced out, because just like we're here to sort of assist humanity in the earth plane, they're on the same level, they're on the same playing field. So sure, they're more conscious of their abilities. We're not conscious yet of our abilities, right? But I deeply believe that we have the exact same abilities, if not more, than most of these ET alien higher dimensional light beings. We're just in physicality, completely condensed into this physical form with organs and blood and veins and all this
100%.
density, right? So it's like they have to let us figure this out. But there's still that balance of them helping us.
I want to share one simple sentence, one quick sentence that's spoken about in Rays of Light from the little that I read from that book, that I think makes our existence here a whole lot more interesting, for whatever it's worth. There's a line in that book that says, and I don't remember exactly what it says, but it states that planet Earth, for whatever reason, out of all these planets with higher dimensional beings, with higher vibrational beings, with this incredible level of awareness, Earth holds the highest form of divine light. Something along those lines, which I found very interesting, because when we see the beings living on it, we're almost, at least in our experience right here, right now, in our present experience, we're experiencing the lower forms of consciousness, but our potential here is massive. That's part of the reason why they're here. It's not just to help us. They understand that we are all one. And like you said, Lori, it's not just fifth dimensional awareness. It's much higher than that, right? We are that. We are all that. And we don't need to get that because it's not coming from an external place. We already are that. What we have to do is realize that and therefore access that thing in us. You know what I mean? So that's
evolution.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And listen, some of us can be extraterrestrials in human form that are here, that will one day experience and understand who we actually are once we reach a certain level of awareness. There's a part at the end of the reason why I say that is because there's a part at the end of the Pyramid Code document where Ray writes that he believes that me and a few others that he named, but we changed the names to keep his anonymity, but he said, I believe that they're extraterrestrials. They just don't know it yet because they haven't reached their level in their individual level of awareness in that path. So any of us can be an extraterrestrial. We just don't know it. But we did come here for a certain purpose of awakening, right? To awaken ourselves and to awaken everybody else. And we all hold beautiful and unique roles.
Yeah. I was just thinking about, I'll tell you after I won't say it while we're live, but
Okay.
yeah, it's true. It's so true. It's so fascinating what we're experiencing and going through. So we have a couple.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a few more.
Okay.
We spent a lot of time on that one.
Okay, so let's see. So many amazing questions. Hi, Ivan from Russia. Let's see. There was one about family and moving through the ascension, and I wanted to find that one. This is kind of funny. I don't know why I'm laughing at this one. Answer this one while I'm finding another one.
Okay.
Will we be able to I can't pronounce your name. Will we be able to move to the fifth dimension while having to wear a mask?
I think the having to wear a mask is part of our ascension process also, whether we understand that or like it or not. I can tell you some things that I've learned through this process because it was a massive trigger for me in the beginning. It taught me compassion. And it taught me to understand, respect, honor, and embrace that others are at a different point of their awakening process. And I'm not better, I'm not worse, I'm just me, you're you, and they're them, and it's all good. And today, I'm not one that advocates for masks at all. I think they're absolutely ridiculous, but I do respect others in public. If I go into a store and they ask me to put it on, I'll put it on. I'm not going to piss people off on purpose. And that's part of the ascension process. It's even if we don't necessarily like doing something, of course, so long as it's not hurting or doing something terrible to somebody, it's a way to show respect even though you have resistance towards something. And practicing that in and of itself showed me and taught me and allowed me to realize a lot more compassion, which is part of ascension.
I mean, what I would add is that you're already, the fifth dimension isn't somewhere you go. It's not a destination. The fifth dimension is a field of consciousness or a spectrum of consciousness. I like to see it as a bubble. You're in it right now.
Yep.
Just like you're in a third dimension and a fourth dimension and an eighth dimension and a 10th dimension. It's called the quantum field. So you're not going somewhere or you're not reaching something. You have access to it in the right here, right now. You could wear a mask. You could wear 17 masks and you could be holding yourself in a fifth dimensional frequency if you choose. So what you're doing is it's not about the physical action or behavior. It's about the consciousness that you're holding. That's what you want to think about, right? So if you're wearing a mask, am I here? Can you hear me?
You kicked out for a second. We hear you.
So the point is that it's not about the behavior as much, unless you want to pay attention to the state of consciousness that you're in, right? What state of consciousness are you holding? Are you holding fear? Are you holding anxiety and stress, right? Are you wearing the mask because someone's telling you to? Now, if you have to wear the mask, can you hold yourself in a higher state of consciousness? Some of us can, some of us can't. I definitely get very frustrated when I wear a mask, right? Are we continuing to move into higher states of consciousness, whether we have the mask on or not? 1,000%. 1,000.
The thing I find the most funny with it, by the way, is that, I mean, if it works, then I never understood why the other person wanted me to wear one, because you're wearing one, so it should work.
I know.
But I guess we lost critical thought also throughout these past 12 months, so it's all good. But in regards to what you just said, I just drew something I want to show you. This circle represents you. These dots in the circle represent your experience traveling through you. And I drew it to explain what you just said. Fifth dimensional awareness is not a destination. And by the way, it's not the highest form of anything either. It's just what we're all talking about. But there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and whatever else, however all those work, which I'm sure we'll learn as we keep moving through this process. But we're just experiencing something. That's not who we are. We aren't our experience. We are us. That makes up all experiences in every single time period, past, present, and future, in terms of our experience of it. But everything's in one moment. So the fifth dimensional awareness that we call a destination, like you said, Lori, is not. That's what I tried to draw here. It's everything is here with 6, with 7, with 8, with 9, with 10. And we experience it because our experience is this little dot. And we move through it. But as our awareness increases, so does this circle. And there comes a point where our awareness encompasses this whole circle and we become ourselves again. That's what remembering is. It's to remember, to bring back together, and to see everything all over again. The big picture. So, yeah, I just wanted to push your point because I thought it was important.
I like it. I like it.
Let me just turn the lights on 1 second.
Alrighty.
Alrighty.
Let's go. I can't wait till this is on your page next time, so then you get to pick the questions.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time.
I'm so bad at picking questions. My guides are always like, close your eyes and just pick. So I'm just gonna close my eyes. Okay, I just picked. I have no idea what it is.
When do you see the lockdowns in Ontario ending? Not familiar with Ontario, Lori.
Ontario is having a doozy of a time, I'll tell you that.
I heard.
So when do we see that? First of all, I have no idea when the lockdowns in any country or any province or any state is going to end. I don't know. I can't answer that question. I have no idea. What I can talk about, maybe we can talk about this, is how do we sort of navigate right now these intense control mechanisms that are coming down on us.
I want to bring something up. Our freedom of choice is the most powerful thing right now. One of the most powerful things. We can end this, by the way, tomorrow. The fact that we're choosing not to do it is a whole different story. But just to put it out there, if everybody in a city stood up and said, no, it's over. What certain forces have on us is that we don't understand our power when we come together, and therefore we don't choose to move forward with that power. But the moment we realize that these few are very little, they lose their power, because we have the power of the many. So that freedom of choice is to stand up and to make a change. We can do it. Just like tomorrow, by the way, we can stop poverty. We can stop hunger. We can have world peace if tomorrow we decided no more armies. There's no more. It's not happening. Because $15 trillion a year is spent on armies. Imagine that money went to giving people homes and the basic necessities that they need. So it may be difficult to get to that point because it's a realization and awareness that we're talking about. But the actual step that needs to be taken is very small. It's, are you going to choose to stand up and make a difference? And the reason why I'm answering in this way is because that's when everything is going to end. Because if it's not masks, if it's not lockdowns, it'll be mandated something else. You know what I mean? There will always be something until we wake up and stop that something. And we will only wake up and stop that something when two things happen. Number one, we realize our power. And number two, we understand why something has to be stopped. Because right now we're under the impression that certain poisons are actually helping us, which is the biggest joke in the world, because they're not. Do you know that dentists are taught that fluoride is good for you? It's like, what are you talking about? How did you? No, it's crazy. It's crazy. My aunt was a dentist, and when she got mercury delivered for like tooth fillings and all that, they would deliver it in biohazard suits and like hazmat containers. Now, let's think for 5 seconds. If it's hazardous, if I can't touch it with my hand, then why the hell are you putting it in your mouth? Like, think about it, you know? That's what I think needs to happen to move forward. Do you know that the fluoride and the chlorine that they put in our water supply, I'm sorry, it's crazy. The fluoride and the chlorine that they put in our water supply, the guys that put it in have to wear suits and gloves with masks to put it in. But we're drinking it. We're drinking it. Like, are you serious? So we just have to wake up.
It's the best.
No, we have to wake up. It's crazy. It's like,
Well,
you guys,
here's the thing.
look.
You know what? My whole body got goosebumps because here's what's happening. I have this vision of this video I watched a long time ago, and it really impacted me to this day because we are conditioned and we are conditioned to be afraid of going against authority, what we are supposed to do. There is so much fear that it's like, what is it going to take for us to, you know, really make the change that the hundreds and hundreds of millions of us are ready to make, by the way? I deeply believe that we are the majority, the ones that are saying no to all of this that's coming down. I deeply, deeply believe that. But here's this video I watched. Okay, it was a big outdoor concert. And there's one man that's just doing his thing, and he's just wild and crazy dancing, right? And at first you can see that everyone's just kind of checking him out, like, dude, the guy's nuts. Like, no one else is dancing. What's going on? And then all of a sudden somebody else.
Everyone. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm that guy at parties, by the way.
And then all of a sudden somebody else joins. And within 5 minutes, everybody in the field has stood up and started dancing. The message here is that it takes a few courageous ones to start, but we have to follow suit. If we just let the few courageous ones do all the work, it is not going to make a difference. We
100%.
all have to start to figure out how we're going to do this. And this could take quite some time because we're not used to this. But this is part of the evolution of human consciousness. It's called sovereignty. It's called free will. It's called choice.
Yeah.
And the more that that is getting literally squashed, the more we are stepping into that sovereignty, and the more we are saying, OMG, I have to now do something. One of the questions in here was, how do I speak my truth, where if I do that, I'm going to lose my job? And I literally, no joke, said this to my girlfriend today. I said, if I had a job where I had to take the vaccine, and if I didn't take the vaccine, I would lose my job, I would be losing my job.
How do you answer that with people who have kids? It's a shitty situation.
Right. I don't know what I would do. I honestly,
it's really hard. It's really hard.
I don't know what I would do. I think if I had children, maybe I would take it because I have children. I would sacrifice, right? I would sacrifice. If I had children, I would sacrifice.
But you know what? That point that we're talking about is not the issue. It's our freedom of choice and how we exercise that freedom of choice that got there in the first place. So, yeah, I mean, truth be told, we're dealing with some difficult things right now. We really are. It's the truth. Now the question is, how do we stop that from happening again? And it's through realizing that power that we gave away, because we're letting people think for us. We're letting people do things for us. Nobody thinks for themselves anymore. Nobody, I'm not telling you to be Albert Einstein, sit down and research. I'm telling you to think for 30 seconds. 5 seconds of thought would have got you to the understanding that mercury should not be in your mouth. 10 seconds of thought would have got you to the understanding that fluoride shouldn't be in your water.
Yeah, but you're missing a massive point. You're 1,000% correct, but you're also, both of us are doing this. We are forgetting the power that the media has on those that are not yet separated. There has to be some sort of compassion that we see, some sort of lens of compassion at the same time that, you know, there was a moment for many of us that we were in that sort of unconscious asleep state. So
for most of us, for sure.
Yeah. So it's not necessary. Yes, we have to start critically thinking. Think for 5 minutes, think for 10 minutes. Like, yes, but
I'm not saying that in a way to judge, by the way. I'm just saying it as a statement of let's think.
But why are people not? Like, that's the bigger question, right? The people ask me this all the time in interviews. Why are they not questioning? Why are they only listening to the one narrative? Why?
Because that's the program. That's how the program is built. Again, whenever I think about something, whenever I try to look at something, I never look at the effect. I look at the cause. I see the non-critical thinking as an effect. I don't see that as the cause. I see the cause as the program that's been imposed onto society and that we've allowed to impose upon us in the first place, that has caused us to not question anymore, because obviously the government's in our best interest, because obviously the doctor, and I'm not saying names, but the doctor who's leading whatever is in our best interest, but maybe not. You know what I mean? And part of breaking that program comes with an uncomfortable situation sometimes of maybe it's almost like saying, and Dr. Palevsky brings this up a lot. And he says, and Damien brings this up a lot, Damien Wynn, where he says, we look at them like our parents. So if you were born into a household where you thought your father was doing the best thing for you ever, and suddenly one day you realize, wait, he actually isn't, and he's here to hurt you, that's something really hard to grasp. You know what I mean? It's like, what do you mean? My father wants to kill me? My father's whatever, he wants to control me, you know? That's a difficult thing to grasp. But the problem, I don't know if I want to call it a problem, but what we're dealing with here is the fact that we see them as our parents. And when you see those authorities as your parents, you stay in the child. And the child doesn't think because the parents think for them, because they're in their best interest. You know what I mean? So I really think the more this is spoken about, not in a way to create revolution through violence or anything, really in a peaceful way and just awareness. The more this is spoken about in a calm way, in a balanced way, in a way that can be understood from both sides and not just one, the more people will be like, well, that's a good point. Because if you go to anybody, if you ask a dentist and you bring up that point, it's just a logical point of, if they're bringing it in gloves and a mask and hazardous material, I mean, why are you putting it in your patient's mouth? And there's really no answer to that. The problem is that nobody thought about it. So if you bring it up to somebody's awareness, not in a way to judge them, but just to talk about it, to bring that to their awareness, I've seen it change others. There are many ways, I'm sure, but that's what I mean. I'm not saying in the judging or a judgmental way, more in a way of, let's just talk about it. Let's think together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This vision just came in. I was tapping into my guides and I'm like, because they made me pick this question, right? That led us down,
Okay.
right? I closed my eyes and they were like, stop freaking doing it with your ego, Lori. Just, this is what humanity needs. So I closed my eyes. I let them tell me what humanity needs. And here we are. It's a really important conversation. But what they were telling me just now is, if we remember that this is about an evolution in human consciousness, which means we are going from one state to another state. If we look at what's happening right now, if we focus on free will, which means choice, okay? And we allowed all humans to have free choice around this, meaning there isn't I'm going to help you get through this and I'm going to save your life by taking a vaccine and by putting a mask on, right? If that was a choice, this is what they're telling you right now. If all of this has always been a choice, the majority of the human collective would have chosen to not follow that dictated paradigm of mandation, stay at home and wear the mask. They wouldn't have. And what would have happened is that the human collective would have shifted quicker into these higher states, right? So what's happening is this battle between the human collective trying to figure out how to move themselves into these higher states, while the forces and powers that be are literally trying to push us back, right, from moving forward into these higher states. There's this massive push back and we're like, no, we're gonna keep going, right?
Yeah.
And that's really like the vision they gave me. And so what it's about, free will and freaking choice. And what's happening out there is the complete opposite, based on what? Fear.
Yes, 100%. I've said this many times in the past, where the genius of this whole thing, the genius of suppression, the genius of controlling, is those people understand that they can't control us physically because they're not enough. We have the numbers. They have to control us mentally. If you can mentally enslave somebody, a few people can control billions, because you're controlling it from the source. And by the way, David Icke puts it beautifully. It's called PRS. He calls it PRS, problem, reaction, solution. And if you want a specific thing to come out of something, you have to make the people want it. You can't impose it upon them. Otherwise, that's a dictatorship. So you create a problem with a predetermined reaction in order to come out with the solution that's already been there. And we see that program built in so many different ways with so many different instances that have occurred. So yeah, I mean, it all comes down to us realizing our power, and in a peaceful way, not in a oh, we're gonna go and kill, and like, I'm completely against that. It's all peaceful. It's all out of love. It's all out of compassion. We move forward in that right direction, out of that good place.
And what about just letting us freaking choose? How about that?
100%.
How about you start letting us choose again, so that we can start to shift the entire human collective? How about that? Because if they let us start to choose, let us meaning like as if we don't have a choice. We do have a choice. But if they were to sort of leave it up to us, they wouldn't be able to have the amount, they wouldn't, their agenda wouldn't be playing out, right? The absurdity of these narratives, the absurdity of all of this, is inundated with fear, so that we can continue to stay programmed in forgetting that we actually have choice here and that we have free will.
Yeah, we can overcome this if we use the same thing that is used to take us down, and it's the program. We can change ourselves on the energetic level. If we change energetically, we shift everything physically.
Yeah, and I want to be really clear. I want to state this pretty clearly. Neither one of us are saying that COVID is not real, or that COVID doesn't exist, or that COVID hasn't killed people. That is not what we're saying. We are saying there is a massive program and agenda behind all of this that is based on fear and control, and has been for a very long time. COVID is just the one that we're recognizing right now. And
by the way, yeah, finish, sorry.
We're learning how to shift out of these consciousnesses.
If first of all, I'm in complete agreement with you. Of course, there is something going on. I lost my taste. I lost my smell. I went through it. But I will give you guys a little tip. Go look at the number of people who died in 2019 versus the number of people who died in 2020, and then tell me what you see.
And look at the amount of heart deaths that went down. Look at
and don't try posting that, because they're going to take it down, just in case anybody was going to try posting that, because I've tried that. There are facts in front of us. So yes, there is something happening. Yes, something is going on, but in my belief, there's an agenda here. There's something happening that we're not necessarily being told.
And by the way,
trying to be gentle. I'm trying to be gentle. By the way, part 2 of I Won't Say the Name is coming out at some point.
Say C18+1.
Yeah, like what does he say? Sharona 18+1 exposed, right? Part 2.
Dr. Joe Yee calls it Sharona 18+1. So awesome.
Exposed. He's funny, man. He's a funny guy. So yeah, part 2 is going to be coming out. I haven't started it yet, but the vision came in. We're going to be putting it together, and that's going to be a really big one and powerful one.
Well, I just saw also that Dr. Palevsky, Robert Kennedy, Christiane Northrup, I want to say, I can't remember who else, but I think it's Rocco's organization in Canada. They're doing a massive free live conversation with like 15 doctors.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that post. Awesome.
It looks amazing because, I mean, this is where a lot of people can get a lot of information in one sitting. I have it posted on my stories. It's on Dr. Palevsky's stories, or on his posts. So go look for it, because it's going to give a lot of people a lot of information if you're looking for it around, you know, all of this and what's happening. And, you know, I think that, you know, the more information and education we have, the more empowered we are, and the more we will continue to make choice and be free and have freedom.
100%. Yeah, no, it's all, knowledge is power. It really is. And it gives you a lot with you just become aware of things maybe you didn't know before. That's why I said in that initial question, when I started reading, I didn't know that certain things even existed. And suddenly it's like, I said this to Damien also, a lot of the support that I've received from Damien Wynn is from him just telling me something. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know that that was a thing. And the second I knew that it was a thing, it was this thing that it was in my awareness. And now that it's in my awareness, I can use it as a tool. So yeah, it's powerful.
The purpose for an agenda, somebody says, why is there an agenda, right? Why are these humans, why would they have an agenda? There's been agendas for hundreds and hundreds of years. The agenda is bred from control and greed and fear and manipulation. I mean, think about it. Well, maybe you can't put yourself in these human shoes, but when you start to have power and you start to gain more power and more power and more power, you literally are feeding off of that power. It's an experience that most of us will never understand because we are not in their shoes. It's the same thing with money. Talk to a billionaire and ask them if they feel safe with the amount of money they have. I guarantee you, most billionaires will still feel like they need more money. I am not kidding you. Ask them. There is this, when you start tapping into greed and power, the way you start living life can be very different. So these humans that we're talking about, in whatever you want to call them, right? The New World Order, or not the New World Order, what do we call them? Whatever, it doesn't matter. They're the richest company. They're the richest families. 5 or 6 of the richest families out there. They're controlling all of this.
13.
They're controlling all of this. Okay, and so why? Because that's how that's what they do. They live this way. They experience life this way. They wouldn't know what to do without it. So for us, it doesn't make sense. For us, we're like, why would you want to control humanity? Why would you want to create another vaccine where you can make $13 billion and kill all these humans? Like, why would you do all the things that they've done for the last 500 years? It doesn't make sense to us, but we have to start to open ourselves to the possibility that this may be happening.
I have to add something. 2 things. Number one, whoever asked that question, I love you, because the fact that you asked that question means that you don't even have that in you. Because if you did have that in you, you wouldn't have asked that question. So you're a beautiful human, whoever you are. That's number one. Number 2, everything you just said, I want to speak about it from a different level. And I'm saying that I'm speaking about it from a different level on purpose, because we're about to change levels here. Okay? I agree with everything that you said from the level that you're speaking about. Now we're going to go to a different level, on more of the level of energy.
Good.
Let's take the idea of reincarnation. You'll understand why I'm bringing this idea in at this point. Reincarnation does not care about what religion, what family, what your last name is, whether you're a dog, whether you're a fish, whether you're an extraterrestrial, whether you're a human being. In other words, Gandhi, or I guess I don't know which one came. No, Hitler came first. Gandhi could have been the reincarnation of Hitler. It has nothing to do with it's a soul that moves from one form to another. Okay? The reason why I'm bringing that in is because on this 3D level, we talk about those people that are doing X, Y, and Z. Those families who are doing X, Y, and Z. And if we take it a step back to look at it from the bigger picture energetically, those families are just like we are, reincarnating through different forms.
Yeah.
Now the question is, why do those forms exist in that way in the first place? And energetically, it has to do with a specific resonance. So I would say, on one level, I totally understand everything that you just said, and I agree. But on the energetic level, there's something bigger going on here that allows for that to exist in the first place. And those are the roots of the tree. That's what we spoke about in that analogy when we were speaking about all the branches. So these families are different branches of the tree, but the roots make up the collective. And the collective is all of us together. What the collective dictates, or the roots dictate the branches of the tree. The roots dictate how the tree is going to grow in the first place, in what state of health, how big, how many branches, and all that. And the reason why I'm sharing that is because, and this is going to a really deeper place, is that energetic understanding brings us to this place of, oh my God, well, me, as I call me, can maybe reincarnate to one of them one day, right? And we are all one in this soup, in this ocean of energy. So one of the answers, I would say, to get rid of this is to shift us on the collective level, because those things, those beings exist as a resonance. And that resonance, that frequency, that vibration exists because we've, once again, allowed it to exist. The only thing is that we've done it unconsciously because of certain programs. So there's like this responsibility that we have to take with no judgment, because we didn't do it purposely. We didn't sit here and say we want greed, we want darkness, we want evil, we want corruption. In our experience of life, we sat here in the dark. We sat here growing up into a program that we grew up into, and we were taught to believe certain things. Certain things were suppressed from us. certain knowledge, it was said that it was dangerous. And now we're dealing with this awakening process. And the awakening process that we're seeing, hence the name of the show, is a sort of cleanse of the roots of the tree. Because if we cleanse the roots of the tree, we change the entire tree. In other words, when we awaken collectively, the resonances that we experience in our life, the realities, the frequencies, the vibrations that we experience in our life change completely, because everything is a reflection of everything else. So if we can change us, the reflection in the mirror changes, even if it shows up in a different form. So it's almost like taking responsibility, but not saying, how could I have done this? Because we didn't know.
Well, we did know we did know prior to incarnating what we were doing.
For sure. But here and now, we didn't necessarily
Yeah.
know. So if this is new to you, a lot of people, me included, by the way, get really pissed. You know, it's like when I first started seeing what was going on, it upset me. It actually infuriated me and frustrated me. And I still get hot here and there because I'm a human. But again, when we go back to this massive picture, everything can be dissolved, solved, and changed and improved from the level of the code, from the level of energy. And that's where I think we really have to start focusing our energy as a collective to awaken. Because when we awaken those 13 families and probably certain people behind them that we don't even know their names, they will no longer exist. Because they exist because of the collective resonance here. So,
and
yeah,
that brings us back
compassion.
Well, that brings us back to the power that we have, the ability to, I mean, first of all, you have to be aware that there is something else happening here. That's the first step, right? You have to be aware that the way you've been seeing your reality is an illusion. There's actually something going on behind the scenes. So if you can't do that, then you have to wait until you can at least do that, right? So that's kind of
100%.
step one. It's like, oh, wait. And then once you go past that curtain and you start to look at what is behind that curtain, then it becomes, okay, so what is my role here? How am I going to now be in this new reality, right? And that's what you're stating basically, is like, okay, it all stems from this, right here, right now, how I be, how I feel, how I think, how I do, that's how we shift the very small percentage that is behind that curtain. Peace. All right, you guys, I got kicked off, so I just want to finish up part 2 of this live so that we can, hopefully I'm live. Sorry, you guys. We're going to just, we're going to bring Jason back on and just kind of say goodbye to you guys. I've never been kicked off Instagram before. Instagram live happens.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah, we know. A live example, ladies and gentlemen of the world.
Literally, the bars went to 0. Like, and I was like talking to my guides and they're like, just let it be, just let it be, just let it be. I was like, wow, okay. You guys are just going to completely shut us off. So be it.
So be it.
We just keep doing it. We just keep coming back. Right? Perfect example of like, what's the choice?
Wow. You know, it doesn't surprise me anymore. I'm like sitting here like surprised. It doesn't surprise me anymore. It's crazy.
It doesn't surprise me either.
It's really crazy. It's like, it's so real. I keep putting myself into this thing. I'm like, it's not real. What are you talking about? It's not
you
real.
know what happens is that the longer we go, if we would have cut off at an hour, we would have been okay. But what happens is that the longer you sort of continue with the conversation, the more that you have the probability of being seen and heard, and because it took 2.5 months for your, you know, Sharona 18+1 video to come off, and it took 2 months.
It was so weird. Yeah, it was really weird.
It takes a while for them to catch up to whatever system they have in place, whatever algorithm they have working, it doesn't happen right away necessarily. So, you know, maybe next time we just stick to, we're not always going to talk like this, but hey, it was chosen. It was chosen.
It was intense. We went deep. We went real deep.
Well, we had to.
I love it.
That's what the collective needed. Okay, so before we go, Jason, my friend, do you have any little messages for us that you can sprinkle our way to help us for the next 2 weeks until we see you again?
You want chocolate sprinkles? I can give you colorful sprinkles. We can do whatever you want.
Any kind of sprinkles you want.
Any kind of sprinkles.
What do you have for us for the next 2 weeks? Anything? Anything you want to tell us? Anything you want to share with us? Anything you want to gift us?
Let me think. Okay, I'm just going to start somewhere, and it'll go somehow, some way, whatever. What month are we in? February? I lost track of time. You know, time doesn't really make sense to me anymore. I sit here and I'm like, dude, we have been in lockdown for like a year. What happened? I remember when it started. I told my friend, I'm like, nah, it's going to be like 2 weeks and then we're done. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And
yeah, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. 2 weeks to flatten that curve.
Yeah, I remember that. 2 weeks turns into a month, 6 months, a year. It's life. That's what it is.
It's life.
Yeah, I wanna leave everybody with a quote that I think is something that I think is really important right now. I don't know if it's a quote, but it's an idea. Something, I don't know. I saw it somewhere and it really resonated with me. Right now, we spoke about the whole mother and father thing and having those attachments. And I think we have to be very careful and cautious in moving forward for anybody that's listening with not replacing one mother and father for another set of mother and fathers, right? In other words, there are teachers speaking out on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on their own platforms. I make videos, Lori makes videos. There are many people who come and teach and share messages. And what I would say, my intention is never to create followers. My intention is to create leaders. And that's why I share what I share. So wherever you are in your process, just be very and I'm not talking about just me or Lori, I'm talking about anybody that's a teacher, that's out there, that's speaking, that you happen to listen to. Do your best to not replace one authority for another, because I'm not an authority. None of us are authorities. We're just human beings conveying certain messages that are in resonance with us, that are our truths, that we feel can help or assist certain people. And if it helps, great. And if it doesn't, awesome. It's all good. But it's never to be mistaken for one is above the other, or somebody is controlling or leading you. There are leaders in the world. My goal is to make us all leaders, to lead by example and to continue moving forward. And the quote or the idea was, a true leader doesn't count their number of followers. A true leader counts the number of people, the number of followers that turned into leaders. Because that's how I would call leading by example. How many people can you turn into their own sovereign beings? Can you allow to realize the freedom that's within them? Because if many more of us were doing this, the world, that ascension process on the collective level would be massive. So I do that in my own ways and shapes and forms. I share any ideas that have come to me, realizations. I do certain workshops with that to just help and sort of in my own way with what resonates with me to assist people through the tools that have assisted me. And that doesn't mean that they're the only tools, because I have my own tools, Lori has her own tools, other people have their own tools. And it's beautiful when we come together and we realize that there's an infinite amount of ways to go about something. And it's great to listen, it's great to hear, but do what resonates with you do what feels best for you. And I mean, you're good. You know, we may be experiencing some weird times right now. I say weird because I don't know of another word. It can be difficult. It can be exciting. It can be, I don't know what it could be. It could be everything. But it's interesting. It's really interesting times. It's different times. And we have a massive opportunity right now. And it's the opportunity of turning obstacles into opportunities, turning obstacles into lessons of growth and opportunities to grow and evolve. And for the next 2 weeks before we show up live again, we have a very special live in 2 weeks that you guys
We sure do. Don't tell them the
but
secret.
I won't. But for the next 2 weeks, I would say, if you can, whatever way that is, try to embody that leader within you and take whatever steps that means. You know what I mean? You don't have to take a massive leap. Take what's comfortable for you and honor that step, whatever's comfortable for you. It could be an inch, it could be a millimeter, it could be a mile, it could be 24,000 miles, whatever it is, it's all good. Just keep moving forward and remember that you're good. I like saying you're good because you are, man. All of you, every single one of you are good. We always have been, we always will be. So just continue moving forward in the path that you're all moving forward in. And faith, in terms of your belief within yourself and how everything will pan out, is very important, because faith will push us forward. It's that programmed belief that's unconditional in knowing this undoubtedly, that we are exactly where we have to be, and we will get to exactly where we need to get to. That's my message.
Amen. I agree 1000%. This is all about learning or remembering sovereignty. And you know, the way I am in my life is that I am learning every now moment how to be more me, right? Whole, complete, sovereign, just like every single other person that's here on this live. I'm no better than or different or higher than or more enlightened at all. And so I'm just here with a divine blueprint that says, hey, Lori, this is what you're going to do. You're going to speak, you're going to know things, and you're going to remind people. So I think it was massive what you said. I think it really was important to take that piece of, listen, don't start to step into sovereignty and yet still give your power away to teachers, or to still give your power away to other people that are speaking, that have a platform, that have followers, right? Oh, they have 100,000 followers. I've got to now move that lens from the media now to this teacher. No, it's all about bringing that lens back here and gathering what we want to gather from others, but never is it about this like worship of any other human. Absolutely. Whatever they may be. My 2 cents in 3 minutes for the next 2 weeks. Here's my recommendation for all of you that are listening to this, if it resonates, is how conscious, how aware, how conscious, how much of an observer can you be of every single now moment that you're having? What are you thinking? What are you thinking now? What are you thinking now? What are you thinking? What are you feeling right now? What are you feeling now? What are you feeling right now? What are you doing right now? What are you doing right now? How conscious can you be? And when you're not conscious, being conscious of the fact that you're not conscious. The only way you become sovereign is that you recognize that you have always been in charge. And the only way you can recognize that you've always been in charge is to recognize every now moment. Boop, the focus is here, not out there. That's my homework for 2 weeks if it resonates.
I love it. This was fun. We just clapped at the same time. We're in tune. We're good. Alrighty, I had a blast. This was a beautiful first show. The Awakening. I'm gonna play like a, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm gonna, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got it? Yeah. I'm gonna make a beginning intro. The Awakening. Yeah. And it's gonna go with like that movie theater voice. It's gonna be a good time. We're gonna bring props.
We're also gonna have t-shirts.
we're gonna get t-shirts with our eye, with like the eye, that logo, you know, that symbol.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good time.
The awakening. Episode 1 is done. Thank
Yes,
you
it
all
is.
for being here with us. We have part 1 that I did save on Instagram, so thank goodness they let us save it. And this is the last snippet of part 2. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. What's the date?
I'll tell you. We're in Wednesday, February 17th.
Wednesday, February 17th on Instagram at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern.
And it's a special one.
And
Remember
it's
that one out.
really
You guys are gonna see
special.
something you've never seen before. You're gonna see something different. They probably think it's like, is he bringing an alien on stage? That's
You're
gonna be a good
hyping it
time.
up, and all of a sudden they're gonna see, and they're gonna be like, da da da. That was what you guys had. That was the surprise.
There are high standards here. I forgot that.
Right.
I forgot.
Yeah. Super
All
high.
righty.
All right.
Happy
Love
Wednesday,
you guys.
everybody.
Thanks for being with us. And we'll see you for episode 2 on the 17th.
Let's do it. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.